Hi guys, Reyndal here. Yesterday I did a review on Esther, and I think she's going to be a very good unit, a nice addition to the Lightning roster, but I also think her Vision card is an even better get for Lightning players. The main thing is the single target resistance part. This is another one of those Vision cards that give you both offense and defense together, which I really like, but also Lightning has really high AoE resistance across the board, and basically no single target resistance. So when fighting an enemy like Starlet Ilina, who mainly relies on single target attacks, so they can build chains and kill your units a lot faster than if you had a way to have both types of resistances up together, and this is what this VC allows you to do. In terms of stats, I would say they're quite average. You get 387 HP, which is higher than the average VC. 143 attack is kind of middling. And then 38 dexterity is okay. It's nothing game-changing, but it will help you crit a little bit more often, which for somebody like Esther is actually important because she has procs that are dependent on crit to happen within her abilities. So I don't really care about the crit damage part, but the fact that it allows her to use her entire kit is quite important. The individual ability has 30% attack. This is great. I know a lot of VCs now have 2 different effects or more in the individual ability slot. When it's 30% attack, you don't care, you don't get anything else. Honestly, this is the best any VC can give you, and it is a lot. It's very impactful. But then, if you're Esther, you also get 10% HP and 15 more crit rate. Again, crit rate really good for her because it allows her to heal back in some of her attacks. And then the party ability gives you 35 slash resistance penetration, 13% HP, and 20% single target resistance. I've already said the single target resistance portion is what I value the most out of this Vision card. I think the extra HP is also really good. HP is nice because it stacks well as a secondary VC, but single target resistance really does not. So this VC, in my opinion, is going to be a primary VC if you run it, because you lose out on the main benefit in my book. Then you also get 35 slash resistance penetration, which is okay. It's a really good buff if you're fighting enemies with very, very high slash resistance, but Esther already has roughly 50 slash resistance penetration with her sword and just her kit in general. You can have the Evasion VC and sub to get a little bit more, so it's not like she needs it all that much. Still, it's a nice bonus on top of everything else, so why would you not use it? Then as a secondary VC, let's look at it very quickly. The attack up in the individual slot is quite a bit lower at almost 14%, but you do still get 7.5% HP if you're Esther and 6.3 crit rate, so it's not bad. But again, you're losing out on the single target resistance, which goes from 20% to 4%, so that is a pretty huge drop. If you just want the slash resistance penetration because you know you're going to be fighting tanks, then sure, you can use that as a secondary VC, but I think in most scenarios it is really one that you want in the primary slot to make your tanks survive longer. Now, let's look at a sample team, and what I would do, let's use the Esther, Charlotte, Ibarra sample. You could replace Ibarra with Cloud if you would want, but then you would have to put Ibarra's Vision card on Charlotte. What makes this set of Vision card especially good, in my opinion, is the fact that you have both single target and AoE resistance together. These are the best types of defenses because there is nobody that has penetration for it, so it's really just if somebody imperils it that it's going to be lower. Similarly to elemental resistances, which are very good as well. So a setup like this would be very useful from an offensive standpoint. You have 3 Vision cards that increase your damage against your enemies while also increasing your survivability. This is not the against Evasion setup though, because yes, we do have some accuracy up with Igaion or with Secrets of the Heart in secondary slot, but it's not going to be enough for Esther and Ibarra to reliably hit their enemies. I think if you're going to be fighting a pure Evasion team, you have to change things around a little bit, and this is what I would recommend. I would still use Esther's card in primary, but I would replace the Guard Scorpion with Igaion on Charlotte. You are not going to get as much of an HP buff because Igaion's HP buff does overlap Esther's, and you're losing out on the 50% extra attack from Cloud's Vision card, which is a pretty huge deal. In exchange for that, though, you get the full accuracy buff from Igaion in your primary slot, and you can slot in a Vision card like Exorcist, make your Esther basically immune to slash resistance, and give her another ability she can use to make Ibarra land her hits more reliably. So I think that could be a very good setup. I've seen it tested in the guild battle sample that we did yesterday, and Esther actually did use triple trick, so it's not something that I'm just improvising on the spot. It's something I've actually seen. With that said, again, the big benefit you're getting out of this, I think, is just making your Charlotte survive one more hit. I've already talked about the fact she gets high AoE resistance, and that single target resistance can't really be penetrated. But yeah, if it turns your Charlotte into somebody that tanks a 4th hit instead of just dying in 3, or a 5th hit instead of dying in 5, that is often the difference between winning or losing. Especially for an element like Lightning that has so much damage up front that they just need one turn to wipe the enemy team down. They don't need their tank to survive forever. So I really think the Vision card is great. If you're pulling for Esther, it's a no-brainer because the Vision card does give you coins to pity Esther, and since she's a half-rate unit, you should expect to pity if you're going for her. But if you're not going for her, I would still consider getting her and getting Ibarra's Vision card if you don't already own it, just so you set your Lightning account for future. I mean, in JP right now, so far, there's not a lot of things that mess with single target and AoE resistance. There's no penetration that has been released just yet. So I feel like the long-term value on both those Vision cards is going to be very, very high. So I've said my bit. Hopefully you found this interesting. Let me know if I'm missing anything, but I really feel like it's very powerful. So thank you so much for watching, and I will be back soon.